Welcome, everybody. I'm Mark Anthony, and you're listening to The Psychic and the Doc on the Transformation Network. My co-host, Dr. Pat Basili, will be back next week. And I want to wish everyone welcome to December. And for all of our brothers and sisters of the Jewish faith, happy Hanukkah. And today is our special Hanukkah episode. And to honor Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is an 8-day Jewish festival of lights. And to help us honor this very, very significant period of time, I'm bringing in a friend of mine, friend and colleague, our special guest, Carla Wills-Brandon. Carla is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she's the author of 13 books. She's appeared worldwide on TV and radio, and aside from her psychological work, Carla has been investigating spirituality and other related phenomenon for years. And this includes near-death experiences, after-death communication, deathbed visions, and premonitions. And she's considered to be one of the leading researchers in the realm of deathbed visions. In Carla's private practice, she works with helping people cope with grief and loss. And in her workshops, she teaches people how to integrate grief and near-death experiences and deathbed visions into their everyday lives. So, Carla, welcome to The Psychic and the Doc.
Hi, it's good to see you, Mark.
It is. It's been, it's got to be like 4 or 5 years since I saw you in person. Yeah. For the benefit of the listeners, I met Carla. We were both, I believe, speakers at the Afterlife Research Education Institute, the AREI conference, which was in Arizona. And Carla hails from Texas. You're from Galveston, right?
Galveston Island, yes.
Ooh, Galveston Island, and we our paths crossed again when I was on tour in Houston, and Carla was kind enough to come out and see me do a mediumship demonstration. So, Carla, 13 books. All right, you're married, you got kids, you've got the psychology practice, you've got your research, and you're also a medium. All yes. Right. Where'd you ever find the time to write 13 books?
Oh, I'm very on the go, but I'm slowing down with age, which is a good thing.
So do you find that with age, you're acquiring more wisdom and
yes.
More wisdom, more worldliness? Do you have another book in the works?
Yes, this one's called the Enlightened Sabbath.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's in work right now. And what it's about is it contains one of the things about Judaism is that back in the day, there was a strong belief in the afterlife. And so rabbis were really respected. Sorry, a frog. And people, when somebody died, somebody could be standing over the grave of somebody and they would all of a sudden sense the person who has passed behind them. Right. And then I might see that person. So, but they don't want to talk about it. They really don't. I think it has to do with World War II and the Holocaust. A lot of folks, after going through that experience, lost all faith. Absolutely lost all faith because they had mothers and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandparents. They perished. And it was really hard for a lot of them to reconcile how could a loving God do that to my family? And so, as a matter of fact, I have an account about that. Can I share it?
Please do.
Okay. There was this, let's see, which one is it? Let me go through the files in my brain. But there was a woman who she and her daughter were in horrible, horrible conditions in the camps. And they really, really, really were like rail thin. They weren't fed properly. Nutrition was out the door. When I went to Auschwitz, I was mortified.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And typically, what happens when people go through the camp, it's like serious post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yes.
And so this woman, she knew she was going to die. She knew it. So she told her daughter that she would come to her and let her know how she could save herself and take care of herself in the Holocaust, in the camps. And she did. Her daughter happened to be racing to get out of the camps with a small group of young people. And they laid down to go to sleep. And all of a sudden, this woman had this profound dream. Her mother showed up. And her mother said to her, if you go to this barn in such and such a place, go in there and you're going to find your brother. And so that's exactly what this younger woman did. Is she not only found the barn, but she found the brother. And then they had the people who owned the house were letting them stay in the barn, which is that's not common. And so that's how she survived, because they gave them work and they fed them and clothed them and take care of them. And so that's just one example of a after-death communication. But in the book, I decided to write this book because I'd go to temple and I'd listen and I wouldn't hear anything real exciting about afterlife and death or any of that stuff. And so I went, damn it, I'm going to go find some information. And I did. I tracked people down. I interviewed them. So I have a lot of cases in this book, and we'll see what happens with it.
So, I think it's important to address the Holocaust for a minute. Last year on the Psychic and the Doc, or Hanukkah show, our guest was Shirley Bolstock, who's a medium, and unfortunately she passed unexpectedly in the last year. And her parents had been in concentration camps. And what we have to realize is they're part of the greatest generation, those folks, and they're dying out. And it's important that we keep the severity of the Holocaust alive. I presented a lecture in New York City, and I addressed the Holocaust. And there was, and I won't mention this person's name, but there was a medium there, and she's well known. She goes, well, that didn't happen. That's just propaganda. Yeah, and the thing is, throughout my life, I have met people that had the numbers tattooed on their arms. And I said that. She goes, well, they survived, didn't they? And I was mortified. And I'm like, how can anyone claim to be a medium? Okay, we're supposed to be patched in. We're supposed to be extra sensitive and spiritual. Right. How can anyone deny something like that? I want to address this a little bit more. We got a break coming up, but you said you went to Auschwitz.
Yes.
Now, as a medium, what happened?
I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I went with my husband's family, and there were a lot of us. And we had a small, like, minivan thing, and we all jumped into it, and we went to several different places. And my husband, he couldn't do it because his parents survived the Holocaust. And so I was the token person. My family escaped Russia. But what happened when I went there is it just felt so heavy.
Yeah.
And it felt crowded. It felt very, very crowded. And I wanted to cry, and I wanted to scream, and I wanted to get upset. But at that time, we had my aunt and my husband's aunt who was with us, who is a Holocaust survivor also. And we were trying to hold it together because this is her first trip back to Auschwitz since she left. And
Right.
it was very, very intense, but feeling so crowded in. And I know that had to do with spirits that were there that hadn't been released yet. And so I would mumble under my breath and talk to them. And but it was some were there, they didn't know that they could go. There were some who were coming back, I think, to see my aunt, to be honest with you. But the whole experience, it was overwhelming.
Wow. So we're going to be going to break in just a moment, and we will be taking calls from listeners. If people have questions for Carla or for me, the call-in number is 1-800-930-2819. That's 1-800-930-2819. I'm Mark Anthony, and you're listening to The Psychic and the Doc. Welcome back. I'm Mark Anthony, and you're listening to The Psychic and the Doc. My co-host, street smart spiritual behaviorist, Dr. Pat Basili, will be back next week. But this week is our special episode honoring Hanukkah, and we have a fantastic, amazing guest, Carla Wills-Brandon. And Carla is a psychologist. She is a near-death experience and afterlife researcher and the author of 13 books. And she's also of the Jewish faith and an expert on Jewish mysticism. Now, before the break, we were talking about the horror known as the Holocaust, in which millions of people, just for the fact that they were Jewish, were slaughtered by the Nazi regime. And there was 5 million other people.
Yes, there were.
Yeah. Gypsies were targeted. The LGBT community was
most
butchered.
Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely people that were communists, people who were
Russians.
It was an absolutely horrific time.
It was.
The history of the Jewish people has been marked by oppression in many circumstances. And that's what brings us now to Hanukkah. Now, I'll keep it short because, my passion, one of my passions is history, particularly ancient history. And I think everybody's heard of Alexander the Great. And he came out of Greece and he swept through the Middle East and conquered an empire that stretched from Greece to India. And after his death, his generals split up the empire. And one of his generals, his name was Seleucid. And Seleucid and his descendants ruled basically the Eastern Mediterranean, Syria, Jordan, what is now Israel, parts of Iraq. And about, not quite 300 years BC, the Jewish people revolted. They didn't like the Syrian Greek oppression. And it's amazing what happened. And Carla, I'm going to let you tell our audience, what is the miracle of Hanukkah? Why was this rebellion so?
It was a rebellion. It was huge. But for a time, people were in their homes and they had shortages of food, water, sanitary conditions, light. I mean, it was bumpkus. They had almost nothing. And so the story goes, here we are, we're stuck. And we have candles, but we only have enough for one. And so they lit that one candle and they thought, wow, this is really good. This is a sign from above that maybe there's some hope. Well, then they tried to light the second candle. And lo and behold, it flared up, which is it's terribly unusual. Well, wouldn't you know it, that all 8 candles were able to be lit by a little bit of oil. And this helped them survive and get to a place where they could be comfortable and start rebuilding communities. And so that's the miracle. It's the miracle of life and light. And In our house, what we do is we have a bunch of menorahs.
All right, for the benefit, people aren't Jewish.
Yeah,
Menorahs are the candle holders, the
right.
candlesticks for, and see, my understanding is, if I can jump back into my history buff
Sure.
mode, part of the miracle. Okay, so there was a rebellion by the Jewish people, pretty much in what is now Israel,
Right.
and the Seleucid king wanted to
Mhm.
crush that rebellion and invaded Israel with
Yes.
60,000 troops, and
Yes.
3,000 Jewish rebels
Mhm.
defeated, destroyed an army 20 times their size. All
That's
right.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
incredible. Isn't that incredible?
that's
Yeah.
incredible. Well, it's just the Israeli army's been kicking butt for thousands of years, and and I hate to say it, but Syria tends to be on the losing end of these battles. But
Yeah.
you think they'd
Yeah.
learn, and it's like, why don't we have peace instead? But I
Yeah.
digress. So that in and of itself is a miracle, and then
It's a miracle.
it's a miracle, and then
Yes.
in celebration, they
Mhm.
were lighting these candles, and they only had enough oil to maybe burn for a day or two, yet
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
lasted for 8
8
days.
days.
And
Yes.
that's why Hanukkah is an 8-day festival, and that's
Yes.
why it's the festival of light.
It
And
is.
Carla, in your work as a spiritualist and after death researcher, what is the importance of light?
Light. Uh, I'm going to share it from a spiritualist perspective. Um, Light is a description for the soul. It's a description for the connection between the soul, spirit, and a higher power or God or some entity greater than us, physics, but it's something greater than ourselves. And light is incredibly important. And so when somebody comes into my office, the first thing I check is their light. I want to
Wow.
feel their light. I want to see what's going on. And if that light is really dim and kind of dingy, I sort of know I've got my work cut out for me.
What
But then,
could what could that indicate?
well, I can't do mediumship in my practice. It's illegal.
Right. I understand that.
So what I will do is people will show up that belong to the individual who has the dingy light, and they will talk to me because I will say to them, you need to talk to me. You need to tell me what's going on. Then I'll take that information and put it in a form that's acceptable and that's comforting for the person I'm working with. So when I get information like your father was murdered or something like that, I kind of hold off for a while. I got to see him for a few sessions because that's pretty heavy duty to share that. Your great grandfather, he was blown away by a shotgun.
Wow.
So I'm just cautious about that. But as time goes on and as we dig more and the spirits talk more, and I might get some information from the client, then I build a picture of what's going on. And eventually I'll say something like, what do you think about spirituality? And I'll let them talk a little bit. And then I'll say, what do you think about spiritualism? And they always go, what's that? And I say, it's a religion. It's a religion, and its foundation is that there is life after death. And then they kind of look shocked.
Yeah.
But it works really, really well. Like if there's hidden family of origin stuff being carried around, and that's responsible for the dinginess. What I can do is I can do some sideways healing, first of all, without telling I'm kind of like multi-managing. But I can give them some information in a manner which won't frighten them. And
So,
yeah.
so while you don't divulge that, oh, I can see your aura, I can see your light, that's an indicator to you that, oh, this person may need guidance and help in this area. And so what you do is let them open up, and then that confirms what you're
Yeah.
seeing. Yeah.
I drop a few seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And say something like, wow, I had a friend who went through this, or have you ever experienced this? Or I saw the strangest thing on TV, but I'll come up with something generic that can start a conversation that can be woven into the afterlife. And I'm going to tell you something, more times than not, they come up with information. And then what happens is that after they are not my client anymore, a few of them have come back and they've wanted a reading. And so if I haven't seen them for a while, because there are all these rules, I can give them a reading. And it's really, really interesting work. It's good work for grief, loss of anything, a divorce. It's just, I think that exposing people to the afterlife is our challenge, our generation's challenge. It really is, like the work you do, Mark, and the work that so many other people do, because we have a death-phobic society. They don't want to talk about it. They just want
to, like pretend that it doesn't exist. Yeah, I see that when I've worked with people from Asia, particularly Hindus and Buddhists. For them, death is part of life, and they say, well, it's part of the cycle. And that's why, like the flag in India is a circle. Well, it's not a circle, but it's the wheel of karma, because they look at it as an unending cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. And so they have a more realistic view that death is part of life. Yet in the United States, and to some extent in Europe, we pretend it doesn't exist. And then when it happens, people are so unprepared for it. And that's why
very unprepared.
Very unprepared. But that's what's so wonderful, that there's people like you who are grief counselors. And not only that, but part of your skill set is being able to detect the spirituality.
I can read it. Yeah, I can just read the energy and determine a bit of what's going on. And then if spirits come up and they're related to the person who is wanting information, then they can give me information. I mean, it's just so all these family members who were Holocaust survivors, and as I said, the Nazis came in and decimated my family of origins community. But the thing about the Holocaust is that when they do come here and they become more familiar with America, they don't know where to go when they have these experiences. Because during the Holocaust, it was like a big to any concept of faith.
It was, I could see
they suffered.
Well, sure. And I could see, like you said, how could a loving God do this to anyone? I know that we're coming up on another break, and when we come back, we're going to take calls from listeners. So I want to thank the people who've been patiently waiting. And so if you have questions for Carla or for me, and certainly questions about Hanukkah and about spiritualism, a Jewish spiritualism. I have a great
story, Hanukkah story.
Okay. I think we'll
Jewish
come back.
Hanukkah story.
We're going to come back with Carla's a Jewish Hanukkah story, and then we're going to take calls from listeners. So thank you. I'm Mark Anthony. You're listening to The Psychic and the Doc, and we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Mark Anthony. You're listening to The Psychic and the Doc. My co-host, Dr. Pat Basili, will be back next week, but I'm here tonight on the fifth night of Hanukkah with Carla Wills-Brandon, and she's going to share with us a Hanukkah story.
Yes, and this story involves my father-in-law. My father-in-law, he was a communist. And so he got kicked out of Poland and he was sent to France. And my mother-in-law was with him, and that's the only way they made it to the States, was doing it that way. But he maintained some of his beliefs and ideas, and he did not like being with crowds. He left France and came back and signed up for the military, and then went back into the military as a doctor. And so this is a guy who he had a lot of PTSD, a lot of difficulty. And so every once in a while I'd say, "Hey, Pop, what's going to happen when you die?" He says, "I'm going to be worm food. I don't even worry about it." I said, "What?" And so when he got really, really sick, we moved him closer to us. So we were going up there every day. And my son, my youngest son, he started talking about Damas in the sky. Well, Damas is in the sky. And Damas is one word that's, translating it from English to Hebrew to Aramaic, I can't say the word. What it means is, it's like a spirit.
Right.
This is the good angel who comes and does good deeds and escorts people over this, through rough times. And so my son would sit in the back, and we'd be going to some goofy store that I thought we absolutely had to go to. And he'd say, "Mom, we need to stop." And I'd say, "Why?" "Well, Damas is in the back seat." I'd say, "Damas? Who's Damas?" And he'd say, "Well, Damas is here. He's in the sky." And I'd say, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so he'd get really mad, fold his arms, then pick up his toy dinosaurs and play with it. And I was the stupidest person on the planet. Well, this went on for quite a while. And he started talking more about how Da was going to go to the sky. And then we had a possum who had died in our yard of our office. And he said, like Da, the possum went into the sky.
Right.
And so eventually what happened is that he became more adamant about that. And we noticed that Pop was starting to become more and more frail. And what we saw with him was there was, like, with any kind of departing vision or afterlife communication or near-death experience, there's like a calmness that comes over the person.
Right.
When they have these experiences. And so I don't know who he met up with, but he became very calm about passing. And so I was at home. We had been with Pop for, gosh, I don't know how long. And I needed to feed the kids and change my clothes. And so I had this deathbed vision where I saw Pop. He looked really, really good. And I saw my husband, who was in distress. I saw the whole scene. And my father-in-law was getting ready to leave. And so I called my husband and I said, "He's getting ready to leave, so I'm coming back." And so Michael went and, of course, rounded up all the relatives, because Jews do death really well, not necessarily the afterlife really well. So we went back up there, and my husband was with him, and all of a sudden he started having trouble breathing. So Michael intuitively put a map up for him to go to all of his favorite places while he was living and here on this plane. And so Pop died in Michael's arms.
Oh my gosh.
Passed away. And then the next day, I was talking to a woman in the facility where Pop was, and she said, she looked at me and she went, "I saw your father. I saw him. He was here. And he walked right by me. And I don't know why he just walked right by me." So, well, I don't know either. So Michael came home, finally got a bunch of sleep. And usually we bury people within 24 hours.
Right.
So we had a funeral to plan and a lot of stuff to do. But he died in Michael's arms. And Michael had opened the window too, so he could go look at the map and then make his journey to the other side. Well, Michael came downstairs. We live in a 100-year-old house, so it's kind of like what's that place? Arthur Findlay, which is it's an old place where people go to study mediumship and all sorts of things. I love it, actually. It's a fun place. But he came down into our back room and he saw Pop sitting on the couch, materialized. He didn't say anything, but he called me as soon as he could and he said, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm, you know me, come on, I'm going to believe it. So he said, "I saw Pop and he was sitting on the couch." And I said, "Oh, you had an after-death communication. That's wonderful." And he was still kind of wobbling about all this stuff. And I said, "No, that was Pop. That was him." And so after he passed away, not that long, maybe several years later, the aunt that we took to Auschwitz, she was starting to have some interesting experiences. She was talking to her mother and father who had died in the Holocaust. And what had happened is that she saw them and she was reaching out to them. And this is very, very common. When a person is preparing to pass, they reach out to somebody.
Yes.
And so she was doing that, and she was doing something like knitting or something. We could never figure it out. And we'd say, "Mom, what are you doing? What are you sewing? What are you doing?" And she'd just continue and say that she had to finish it up. But Jews do have experiences like this. So Pop died the day after Hanukkah because he didn't want to upset his grandchildren.
Oh.
Yes, he waited. He held on, and it was a beautiful thing. It was just a beautiful thing. So that was a miracle for my sons.
Wow.
And so it was very heartfelt. I'm going to cry. But those sorts of experiences are not unusual. Things like him waiting until after Hanukkah was over. And
Yeah.
the last candle had been lit.
Wow.
He decided to take flight.
So Hanukkah is special to you and your son and your family in so many ways. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, and thank you.
I want to skip the next break and let's go to callers. So Jacob, who do we have on the line?
Yeah, sounds great. We've got Stephanie calling in from California. Hi there, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. This is Mark Anthony. What can we do for you?
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Psychic and the Doc.
Hi, Stephanie.
You. I was wondering if you had any messages from Spirit for me.
Okay, hold on. Carla, are you getting anything?
Oh.
See what you get.
I see a thin man, and he seems to be a little bit older. He's handsome. He has shocking full head of gray hair. Blue eyes pop up. Quiet, not loud. Somebody who he's getting quiet. Let me ask if he has anything he wants to share with you. He's really sad. Does any of this resonate with you?
Yes.
It does. Okay. We'll continue. Okay. So I have him sitting. I'm sitting with him on a bench, and he has his head in his hands, and he says, "I didn't do the best I could. I should have done better. It all turned out so wrong." But he has a lot of love. There's a lot of love there too. But he's like regretful. He feels very regretful. And if he could change it, he would change it. No problem. I get the name Al. And he's like bending over now, and he's really sobbing. And so the message is, what's the message? What message do you want to share with Stephanie? I'm getting granddaughter. He says that you are a beautiful girl. He calls you girl. He doesn't call you an adult. Okay, he says, don't give up before the miracle happens.
Aww.
Does any of that make sense?
Yes.
It does? Okay.
Okay. In what way? Yeah. Because what happens is, when we transmit, and first off, I know it can be overwhelming. How does this make sense to you?
Yeah. Well, I think that this individual in spirit is someone who, sometimes it's a good idea if the person getting the reading has a picture of the individual, to find that picture and to maybe talk to that picture a little bit. Maybe develop a little bit of a communication, even if the relationship was maybe not so peachy. But to begin and to ask, just to ask, why did you come? Why did you come to me? What were you trying to tell me? Tell me what you were trying to tell me. And give me some hints too. It doesn't matter if I'm weeding the yard or I'm loading the dishwasher. Let a word pop up. And that'll do me some good. Thank you, Stephanie, for letting me do that.
Yeah, Stephanie. Does that resonate with you? All right. What I'm getting as well, Stephanie, from this spirit is, it may sound like cliche advice, but it's look before you leap. There's some decision coming up that you're waiting. See, Carla is getting at too, that you've got a lot going on right now, and there's a big decision coming up. And it's not just personal, but it's also as a huge financial component. And you're weighing a lot of factors. And he's saying it's okay for you to take your time. Because what I get about this gentleman is he was in his head a lot. He was a smart guy too. Like he was always reading. I see a lot of newspapers, and this is in conformity with Carla, what she's saying, and that's why he's here to guide you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In what way? Yes.
So I was recently deciding to go back to school.
Okay.
And I didn't know if I should or not.
Okay.
He's clapping his hands.
Yeah. What? Yeah. He's like, you're going back to school. Okay. You're going back to school. And I think what he's talking about, like, look before you leap, he wants you to make sure that you focus on something very practical and employable. It's like, kids that come out of high school, they're like, I want to major in philosophy. Okay. Well, that's nice. If you want to end up in, working for the post office. And I'm not down in the post office, but what I'm saying is there's not a huge demand for philosophers. Okay. But there is for accountants, so the point is, Stephanie, and a lot of mediumship at times can be funny. And this guy, he's serious, he's intense, he loves you, but he's telling you, make sure you go back to school and it's employable. So we're going to leave that with you. Jacob, thank you very much, Stephanie. God bless you. And feel free to check in with us again and let us know what decision you have made about school. Okay, Jacob, Who else do we have on the line?
Yeah, next up, we've got Sharon from Florida. Just bring it on really quick.
Lord.
Hi there, Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
What wrong? Hi.
How you
Sharon.
doing?
Hello.
Hey, okay.
I wanted to tell you, first of all, that I was born in 1950 on the first night of Hanukkah, which translates to December 3rd. Yeah, like tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy
that's
birthday
cool.
and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Happy
yes, I
birthday,
am a Hanukkah baby. But you know that the Hebrew calendar is different it's different than the English calendar, and so every year it's different with Hanukkah. But so actually November 28th was the first night, and that was my Hebrew birthday. But tomorrow is my regular birthday that I go by, December 3rd, 1950.
Okay.
So that makes me an old lady. But anyway, my kitchen lights are blinking on and off like crazy. There's just no explanation for it. My electrician can't figure it out.
Oh, but
And
there is
I
an
say,
explanation.
I
A visitor, maybe,
videotaped
Mark.
it.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's your dad's in spirit, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm getting dad, like a real male energy, and he's not alone. And I'm getting like ... flash, pause, 2 flashes, pause, ... It's like 3 space 2 space 3. So I'm wondering.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be.
But
Start checking it to see if it's doing that. Now, does 323 make sense to you in any way? It could be 323. It could be like an address, 323. It could be perhaps March 23rd. Okay. But I'm getting 323.
I'll tell you what I get is 322. I lost a friend that date. That was born on that date, 322.
Oh, okay. See, in spirit communication, when a medium gets a message and we convey it, your interpretation is more important than ours because we're just the conduits. Okay. And was that a male friend?
Yeah.
Okay. What's with you and cantaloupes? Cantaloupes and melons. I'm tasting fresh cantaloupe. You love cantaloupe, hate cantaloupe?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cantaloupe. Let me see if my husband just brought some home because he just went shopping and brought the. Did you buy a cantaloupe today by any chance? Not today. You bought a pineapple. Well, we always have like pineapple or cantaloupe in this house.
Okay,
Come to your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live in a healthy household. So when a spirit gives us a message like that, that means they're around you and aware of what's happening. So we're getting double teamed by your dad and your friend, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. Carla, are you getting anything? I see you, Carla. I know you. You are tuned in, baby.
Well, I see. Okay, so I see her first of all, and you're not some like boring old lady. You're kind of like a stir of him. You like to kind of stir stuff up every once in a while, and then kind of sit back and watch. And who's with you right now? It feels like a female energy. And she was like that. She liked to, it's just fun. She liked to stir it up. So people would be having a conversation and she'd throw a bomb into the conversation. She looks like she's probably this person in her late 60s, and she's got gray hair. She's heavy set. She's attractive, an attractive 68-year-old woman. And peaches come up. She talks about peaches. Okay. I have 1546. I'll leave that with you.
And that could also be military time too.
Yeah, they could
which would be 3:46 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. But this woman is somebody who, she wasn't like a fancy dresser, but she would slip on a pretty scarf around her neck. And
it could be so many people. Yeah, I have such a big family. I just lost a cousin too, but she was 84 at the time.
Was she Catholic?
Was she Catholic?
Yeah.
I grew up in a totally Jewish family. My grandfather was a rabbi.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Could the month of May
That's
the
my
month
father's birthday.
There we go. You know what it is? May is dedicated to Mary, the mother of Jesus. And when a lot of times when I get May, that's a Catholic trigger. And it's funny because when I do readings for Jewish people, they say, well, I'm Jewish. It's like, well, yeah, so is Mary, the mother of Jesus. You know,
That's
Jesus was referred to as rabbi by his followers. Now, you can't get more Jewish than rabbi.
That's right.
You know?
Right.
Because,
I know
he was preaching Judaism, maybe a progressive form of it, but nonetheless. So that's interesting because we got your friend, we got your dad. Let's get a message for you. What do they want you to know? Okay. Simple and beautiful.
Also,
he said, enjoy life. Hold on. He said, enjoy life. He's so proud of you. So proud of you. He said that you have taken the baton, the scepter, like you're the matriarch of the family now. And he said, and he goes, exactly what Carla said. You like stirring things up and shaking things up. So people come to you for advice and they don't always know what to expect. And he says, enjoy these days.
I better, because time is getting short. No, I'm a very active person, and
I wouldn't say time is short, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't either. You're not going anywhere anytime
I don't feel
soon.
that. You too, Mark?
I always worry now because
well, that's part of being Jewish. Now, see, I'm Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, and I'm of Italian descent. Okay, and I remember when I was in law school, my Jewish friend said, "Same thing, different religion."
That's right.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
they
true.
do.
It's all
Catholics
about
marry Jews.
It's all about family, food, and guilt.
That's it. Guilt. There you go.
Well,
Jews invented guilt, but Italians took the ball and ran with it.
They sure did. They perpetuated it. Yeah.
But no, all joking aside, both Carla and whenever Carla and I get together, it's like this. But what the message is: enjoy these days, enjoy this life. And you're saying, I'm always worrying. Well, sure, of course, you're the matriarch, you're the mother. But both Carla and I you're not going anywhere anytime soon. All right,
no.
and you're eating all the right foods. Yeah, you're very active. Because here's the thing. All right. So your birthday's coming up. So what? You're going to be 71. Guess what? 70 is the new 50. All right. So go for it. Yeah. When we were little kids, 70 was like old ladies sitting on the porch knitting.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're off. Yeah. Now they're going out to play tennis, so enjoy your life. Enjoy these days. So thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
All right. Many, many blessings. So let me see. Jacob, how much time do we have? Okay. All right, everyone. I want to first off, thank you, Carla Wills-Brandon, for being our fabulous guest on Hanukkah. And the Psychic and the Doc will be back next week. We'll be taking calls again. If people want to find out about booking a session with me, signing up for newsletter, or my new book, The Afterlife Frequency, please visit my website, afterlifefrequency.com. Also, Carla, how can people get hold of you?
I'm very easy to get a hold of. You just type my name into a search, Carla with a C, Wills, W-I-L-L-S, and Brandon, B-R-A-N-D-O-N. And if you have questions, just send me a note. If you want a sitting, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's fun with Mark. It's always fun with Mark.
It's just fun, it's fun doing tag team readings like this. And, that's also the beauty of the Psychic and the Doc. And because, I do readings and Dr. Pat gives her insights. And like I said, the Psychic and the Doc will be back every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And Dr. Pat and I will be doing live shows the week of both Christmas and New Year's, because this time of year is tough on people, and we are here for you. So once again, I want to thank our fabulous guest, Carla Wills-Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank you, Mark.
everyone, a happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
And as I like to say to everyone, have a merry Ramahana Kwanzmas. All right. So, God bless and good night. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Psychic and the Doc with Mark Anthony and me, Dr. Pat Basili, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Hey, look, come back next week so we can explore with you more of life's many challenges and learn from fascinating guests. And you know what? Even Mark and me. We'll connect you and discover insights from people in this life and from the afterlife. Extraordinary problems? Yeah, they do. They require extraordinary solutions. But step into the world of possibilities with us on The Psychic and the Doc. That's every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. That's TransformationTalkRadio.com. And don't forget, we're also live face-to-face on Facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio.